Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have the founder and CEO of the Free Spirits Company, an award-winning non-alcoholic spirits and cocktails business. We have Milan Martin. Welcome to the show, Milan.
Hey, LeTroy. It's good to be here, man. This is fun.
Oh, yeah. So, what does the following quote mean to you? I'm very eager to play more of a role in encouraging the moderation of alcohol consumption, all while still enabling people to live a full, exciting life.
Yeah, man. I've lived a life of work hard and drink harder. You know, I spent 20 some odd years in advertising. I lived in New York. I lived in Europe. And, drinks and cocktails were always a big part of my life. And, I just kind of realized one day that I loved the ceremony of drinking cocktails with friends and, the big energetic nights out and all that comes associated with it. But the more I kind of got into life, I realized it wasn't necessarily the alcohol that was as much of the magic ingredient as I think that everybody kind of characterizes it to be. Everybody kind of goes, well, it's the alcohol that makes everything fun. Mm-hmm. If I'm totally critical for a minute of the business I came from, the advertising business, the advertising world spends, billions of dollars a year going, hey man, you want to have a good time, you want to relax, you want to decompress, you want to mourn, you want to whatever, like alcohol is the star of that party, is the hero there. And so all that to say, man, like I just kind of realized, like, when you start to reduce the amount of alcohol in your life, good things happen. And listen, man, I'm not sober. I'm not a teetotaler. Nobody on our team is sober, even. So our brand and our business, it's not about sobriety. It's not about wagging a finger at anybody saying alcohol's bad, you shouldn't drink it. It's just more like, hey man, like this world is rad. There's a lot of good stuff to be had out there in terms of interactions and social events and big parties and interacting with your friends and all of these things. And at the end of the day, you can have all that. And you can have the delicious cocktails and the big, nights out. But, what if people just had the ability to kind of say, yeah, I want all of that, but maybe not as much alcohol? And that's really the role we're playing.
Right. Yeah, I like that you said that your team, we're not, pointing a finger or saying that, casting stones because people choose to drink. But It sounds like it's more about, like you said, drinking in moderation. Like even when I go out, there's times where I don't feel like having a drink, or I just want to have one drink, and then yep. I'm okay. I don't want to get sloppy drunk. Talk about that light bulb experience that led you to creating Free Spirits, or even researching non-alcoholic cocktails.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were countless times in my career where I was out with colleagues or clients or friends and just experienced, I think, what all of us have experienced at some point, which is you're sitting there somewhere cool, you're having great conversation with people, you're drinking really tasty cocktails, they're going down easy, and, you're at the bottom of your glass maybe for a second time. And somebody's like, hey, LeTroy, you want another round? You're like, yeah, sounds good. And you just kind of mindlessly keep drinking, not because you want more alcohol, right? You're not sitting there thinking to yourself, hey, I could be more drunk right now. That would be great. Mm-hmm. It's just more like, no, this is wonderful. I'm having a great time. It's tasty, delicious. It's fun. It's all of these things. And so, I think the phenomenon that leads to so many bad things happening as it relates to alcohol is it's a pretty innocent thing, right? It's not the Hollywood movie of the alcoholic who's going out and shooting, 20 shots of whiskey. It's really just, the average person who probably doesn't have a physical chemical problem with alcohol, they just kind of go out and they're like, yeah, no, this is having a great time. And 5 or 6 rounds later, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, okay, now this is an ordeal, you know? And so, you know, I think the aha for me was, well, you know, the reason you keep drinking is because really up to date, there's nothing that is equally interesting to a cocktail. Like the reason that we pay 15 or 20 bucks for a cocktail is where's that, you know, although that the ingredient story, right? Where's that bourbon come from? You know, where the bitters and that glass is really pretty and that bartender has a funky haircut and, you know, lit an orange peel on fire and all, you know, and all of that goes into it is really intriguing. So compared to a glass of cranberry juice, which is the natural, like, well, if you're not drinking, I'll have a water or a cranberry juice or a soda. Those things are boring. They're not exciting to order. And so 9 times out of 10, it's not even a consideration. You know, you just kind of keep drinking. And our thing was, you know, everything that goes into why a cocktail is so special is wonderful. Our whole thing is, well, what if you could have a really delicious reposado style margarita or a Manhattan, you know, or any number of thousands of cocktails. But now you have the ability, you have this magical little dial to say, I can have a full strength one, I can have a 0 strength one, or, you know, the magic with our stuff is if you mix it in the right proportions, you can have a low proof cocktail and just kind of keep things, you know, chill. So, you know, I think for us, the aha to your question was, you know, it's really about giving people control over, you know, how much alcohol they put in their body without having to sacrifice the quality of what they're drinking.
Right. So what do you use in place of the alcohol to replicate the taste? And if, I guess, somebody did a blind tasting, one Manhattan with alcohol in it and one without, could they tell a difference?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question because I think, you know, we kind of liken it a lot to the, you know, the alternative milk category, right? You know, I remember the first time I tried almond milk, I was like, oh, all right. So it doesn't taste exactly like vitamin D cow's milk. But you're like, okay, it's used in the same way. It has the creaminess to it, has you know, the flavor notes there. And you know, you use it in your coffee, or you can use it to make ice cream, or any of those kind of things. So you can definitely tell a little bit when you're drinking like our tequila versus an alcoholic tequila, because, you know, ultimately they are derived from the same things, just done in a different way. So, for example, you know, tequila is, you know, born from agave. You know, our tequila is the same thing. It's born from agave. We just never go through a fermentation process that creates alcohol in it, right? So our whole process is distillate reconstruction, which ultimately kind of says, all right, what are the 10 great flavor notes that we want to have in a reposado style tequila? We distill at the flavor level. We put them together in a way that makes it, you know, kind of creates a, you know, a flavor profile of a tequila, and we never fermented the product. And so, you know, ultimately then, you know, one of the secret processes that make it kind of magical is, you know, as you probably know, when you take a sip of bourbon, you know it because the role that ethanol plays on your palate is significant, man. Like you feel the burn, you know, and it has a real impact. And so for us, you know, we use kind of an interesting concoction of spices, actually, to be a proxy for what ethanol does to your palate. So you take a sip of our bourbon or our gin or any of them, it really does deliver an experience versus just a flavor.
Okay. All right. So like the non-alcoholic beverage industry, you know, continues to evolve. How does Free Spirits differentiate itself from the competition?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of ways, and it's something that from day one when I founded the thing was really important to me. I'm a brand guy, and we want to have a very differentiated brand, which we do. But I also want to make sure we have a very differentiated product. The whole Coke Pepsi thing, and I think that people who love Coke will tell you it's wildly different from Pepsi, and all of that. But take that for what it is.
Yeah.
I wanted ours to be very different. And so, I think for us, not only is delivering a non-alcoholic tequila, for example, that tastes like a barrel-aged Reposado tequila, but also replicating that burn in the bite of alcohol is pretty unique to what we do. And then on top of it, instead of alcohol, we actually infuse the liquid with vitamins B3, B6, and B12. And so ultimately, one of the promises of the liquid is, great, you're having a cocktail, you're having an experience, and there is a functional benefit that your cocktail, is delivering a healthful experience to you. Whereas, as we all know, too many cocktails is not a healthful experience. Whereas with our product, what we endeavor to deliver is, no, you've had a couple of our cocktails, and you've actually put something healthy into your body.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm curious. So from a business perspective, do you have more success with selling free spirits in liquor stores, or in like grocery stores, convenience stores, and other retail locations?
Yeah, what's really interesting about it is 95% of the people that buy free spirits, that drink non-alcoholic spirits in general, are drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And the current places that sell the most free spirits are liquor stores. Grocery stores are a quick, second or a close second. And I think ultimately the rationale or the reason is, people are going in, they're going to buy their Cuervo tequila, and they're going to buy, free spirits, our spirit of tequila. Getting it all in the same place is convenient, because people ultimately are not just buying, they're not going to a non-alcoholic store to buy their non-alcoholic stuff and going to a liquor store to buy their liquor. They want the convenience of them both in the same place.
Right. You were mentioning earlier in the interview about how advertising firms have, pushed alcohol and cigarettes and other temptations that aren't good for our bodies on us. How do you make free spirits cool?
I mean, free spirits, we don't try to be cool. We try to be authentic to who we are. And, who we are is, really a group of people who've gotten together and have decided that, being cool means doing your own thing, right? Being cool means being a little weird. Historically, if you walked into a bar and said, I'm not drinking tonight, people looked at you like there was something wrong with you, right? Remember those days where it was like, oh, come on, LeTroy, why aren't you drinking tonight, man? Come on, just have a couple, and it was the peer pressure of, wanting to kind of do what your friends, pressured you into, or the industry said was cool. Free Spirits as a brand, represents a point of view that says, no, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. I'm a free spirit. I live the way I want to live. And that means that sometimes I might drink alcohol, sometimes I might not drink alcohol. Or that means that, some people are like, no, I don't drink alcohol at all. And so, and obviously beyond just the act of drinking, our brand exists almost as an homage to those who are the creators in the world, who make this world really colorful and interesting, right? Because those are the people that, really bring innovation and color and, interesting things to the world. And so, Free Spirits is just really our little homage to those people to say, hey, you do it your way, man. And, just because you're not drinking or you don't want to drink as much doesn't mean you shouldn't have something like exciting and delicious to sip on.
Dr. Todd McClain provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338 or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
All right, so we've neglected to even, I guess, give a rundown of the line of spirits and cocktails that you offer. So, yeah, feel free to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we started out with, the spirits, right? So we started out with what we call the spirit of bourbon. So all of our products are named the spirit of, because it's really meant to say this is made in the spirit of this thing. Right, so we start with the spirit of bourbon, the spirit of gin, and the spirit of tequila. And the reason there is, those 3 spirits are used in a lot of the cocktails people would otherwise want to drink. And then we also make one called the Spirit of Milano, which is a nod to the great Italian aperitivos from Milano, Italy, having nothing to do with my name, by the way, total coincidence. Mm-hmm. And we also make an Italian aperitivo. We make a sweet vermouth. And so we've got 5 spirits, and ultimately, so if you want to make a Negroni, Negronis are sweet vermouth, a Milano, which is like a Campari type thing, and, and the gin. If you want to, make a margarita, you got margarita mix and the spirit of tequila. And so ultimately that's, the portfolio of spirits was meant to enable people to make the cocktails that they would otherwise just be accustomed to drinking.
Right.
And then, we kind of woke up one day with an insight that said, not everybody wants to make a cocktail, for every occasion. And some people don't want to make a cocktail. Maybe they're not good at making cocktails, and that's fine. And so now we have a line of 4 ready-to-drink, pre-made cocktails, non-alcoholic cocktails in the can. We make a margarita, a Kentucky Mule, which is bourbon and ginger beer and lime. And we make an espresso old fashioned, which is a bourbon-based drink made with fresh espresso. And then we make a Negroni, which I mentioned earlier. That kind of classic bittersweet, Italian cocktail. Mm-hmm. And I think that different uses for different occasions. It's like if you're going up and doing a hike, and you'd love to sit at a rock at the top of the mountain and overlook, the valley. Pop a couple of RTD, craft cocktails in your backpack, and you're good to go, because nobody wants to bring all the stuff up to the top of the mountain to mix a cocktail.
Right.
But hey, it's Friday night, and the ceremony of making a cocktail is as enjoyable as drinking it. So, we make the spirits. So you're sitting there in your kitchen on a Friday with a couple of friends, mixing them up something great.
Mm-hmm. So which one is your go-to?
I love all my children equally, but at the moment, the tequila for me is a real savior. It's we've figured something out there that we've started applying to the others that is it's pretty special. Tastes almost exactly like, if not exactly like, a $60 bottle of Reposado tequila. And it's it's something really special. I think we've always run this thing like a software company, right? It's like you start with a good product, and then figure out how to make it a little bit better, more interesting, and over time, just like with your iPhone, your computer or whatever, a couple of years later, it's like, wow, it's just a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you have other cocktails or ready to drink beverages coming down the pike. What's your process for developing those flavors and deciding, okay, this one's ready to go?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I was actually had the entire team with me here in Northern California up until last night. Everybody just went home. We were doing 2025 planning, and on the product stuff, we all started kind of doing what we typically do, which is, I think this and I think that, and my favorite is that, and my favorite is that. And there's still an element to that. But, we're now at a place where we've got, 100,000 customers that we can go out to and kind of say, hey, what would you like next? What do we not make that would be, really important to have in your at home, at home bar? And so we're going out in the next couple of weeks with a survey to customers saying, from a spirit perspective and a cocktail, perspective, I certainly know I've got my favorites, or what I think, we should do, or what I'd like to see happen. But at the end of the day, especially as you start to get more and more mature as a company, you go, what I want, it really matters a lot less than what our customers want. So we're reaching out to them to hear more from them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this customer would like mojitos.
Right on, and that's on the list. We've been very curious and playing around with a rum and and subsequently a mojito in the can. So stay tuned.
Okay. Good. With your team, what do you believe is the key to fostering the creativity? I mean, whether it was in your advertising days or within the beverage industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the team we have now is a really special one. We're still really small. I mean, we're only 7 people, but it's a team that genuinely respects each other, genuinely likes each other, and I think that the key is that everybody feels 100% comfortable being themselves. And it's a little, it might sound a little corny, but it's a little bit, baked into who we are as a brand. Like I said, we value individualism, and, everybody brings something different to the table. And, like sitting around in this Airbnb that we had earlier this week, just like observing everybody work together. And it's just like, I always say, Tom Brady might have been a great quarterback, but if you had an entire team of Tom Brady's, man, they would have gotten killed.
Yeah.
Right? Because Tom Brady sucks at offensive line, and Tom Brady sucks at wide receiver, right? It's like all of that, right? And so I think I look around the room and I'm like, oh my God, the complementary skill sets, I think ultimately is what makes the team so good. And that balance of respecting each other's core skill sets, but also, hey, jumping on a grenade when it needs to happen, right? Even if it's not in your area, kind of that balance of things.
What do you see the future of the non-alcoholic beverage industry, say, like within the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you see the industry heading in?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that, the big strategic alcohol companies, the Brown-Formans of the world and Constellations and Proximos and all of those kind of guys, even Anheuser-Busch's and Molson Coors and all of that, I think they're broadening their wings to be more total beverage companies versus just alcohol companies because of a number of things, not least of which is, changing tides of drinking behavior. So I do believe that, non-alcoholic spirits, non-alcoholic cocktails, are going to be much more integrated into that world. And as a result, the consumer is going to just experience better choice, right? It's like, I want a great margarita right now. And the natural question, I think, is going to become, do you want that full strength, half strength, or zero strength, right? And, we still get, the category is still very young. There's still plenty of people that I talk to that I say, hey, we make non-alcoholic tequila. And they're like, what the hell's the point of non-alcoholic tequila? Isn't tequila supposed to get you messed up? He goes, no, man, think about cocktail culture and think about great, delicious margaritas and, all of that kind of stuff. So I do think as the category moves, or not even the category, but as people move towards a drinking culture of moderation, that, you're ultimately, looking at the non-alc companies like ours, being more closely integrated with the big strategics and distributed in a way that ultimately gives people more choice in what they put in their body.
Okay. Do you see Free Spirits branching out or yourself branching out and looking into other ways to, I guess, put the brand front and center? Like, are you all popular in bars, like nightclubs and bars, or?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in about 20 states right now. And we're distributed through, beer, wine, and spirits distributors. So, we're in Total Wine and More across the country. We're in Walmarts. We're in Safeways and Binny's and Bevmo and, all of the big liquor stores. And but we're also in, we're in Disney cruises
Okay.
and Hiltons and Hyatts and, those kind of places. And 1,000, independent bars and, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And at some point, there's so many points of distribution that, we'll ultimately look for some kind of a strategic partnership with one of the big guys to extend our reach. But in the meantime, we're just continuing to kind of like do the hustling to make sure that bar by bar, customer by customer, they're kind of, getting exposed to the brand and understand what we're about.
What do you find most rewarding in this endeavor?
I gotta tell you, man, like just sitting around like we did last week doing the planning, looking at the team that we've built and the relationships that have formed, and then more broadly, the community that's been built around our company, kind of both within, the people that kind of know and touch it every day, to even just our customers and the community of, Sober Curious and, the moderation community and all of that. It's really, really wonderful to be a part of it. And because it's such a young business and there's so much to be gained that's in front of us versus, in those hyper competitive businesses, competitors are just trying to eat each other's lunches. We're super friendly with like all of our competitors and everybody's really supportive of each other in this category. And so, I feel really fortunate to be in a business that is, a really positive, one that is coming from a place of abundance and creativity,
Do you learn more from your wins or your losses?
Oh man, yeah, much more from the losses. Like I can't tell you how many. On the entrepreneurial journey side of this thing, man, I had no idea what I was signing up for. And there has been some devastating losses and some, with some scar tissue that I thought I was going to bleed out at the time, but fortunately didn't, and got scar tissue to prove it. But it's just like anything else in life. It's, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It feels good to own, the wisdom that is hard gained by those mistakes. If you were just kind of born with it, be fine. But, having fought those battles, there's a lot of pride that comes along with the peace and the comfort that is, having the wisdom to know what to do, what not to do, what to get upset about, what to not get upset about,
What's the best advice you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking to pivot into another industry like you did?
I think that there's a lot of people that look at entrepreneurship as a moment of a huge leap, leaping off of a huge cliff, taking the dive. I actually don't think it has to be like that. It wasn't like that for me. I kind of took baby steps, into the ocean, right? It's like, all right, I've got this idea. Let's push it a little further, right? Let's see if we can get the name. The next day, like, all right, well, let's find a partner maybe that can help us do some testing with the liquid. Let's find out, let's do some market research. And, all of a sudden you're like taking a little baby step, a couple baby steps a day into the ocean. And, all of a sudden you open your eyes and you look back and you're like, whoa, the shore is way back there. And, you kind of punked yourself into doing it. And so I think that the alternative approach of, I'm going to quit my job today and start a company is like, I don't know, man, like that feels unrealistic. And so for somebody, thinking about taking an entrepreneurial journey, I would just say, like, start with a stack of paper, of blank paper and a Sharpie. And, write down your idea. Don't be precious with your idea. Feel free to kill your idea. Start new, evolve it, listen to people, learn, and, then just take some steps to bring it to life. Little teeny baby steps. And, if the idea is meant to live, and you keep pushing it forward, and you can endure some of the hardships of early days, then it will in fact live, and you'll find yourself doing it.
Okay. All right, Milan. What's something about you that people would find most surprising?
I think, like most people, I have all of the same self-doubt and self-loathing type things that a lot of people have. I think that as an entrepreneur who's kind of maybe 5 years into it, who can kind of stand up in front of a group of people and pitch ideas and drive a business forward, I think some people would kind of go like, "Wow, that guy's got it all figured out." And truth is that it's just like an anybody else thing, man. We're all just kind of faking it as we go, and hoping that you get some wind at your back, and you get help from friends along the way that help make up for some of your shortfalls. And I think at the end of the day, it's really just a matter of if you just have a lot of self-doubt, take comfort in that, because that's just being human, and that just means that I think you're like so many of us, but everybody has that thing, and that's certainly a big part of what keeps me humble.
Mm-hmm. All right, so as we prepare to wrap, feel free to plug Free Spirits, and if you have a parting shot, feel free to leave us with that as well.
Yeah, right on. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you having me on. It's been super fun. I really like doing this kind of thing. It's fun to talk to guys like you and really kind of think through sky type thing. I think Free Spirits is available at drinkfreespirits.com. It's also available at places like Total Wine and More, and thousands of other places across the country. It's taken 5 or 6 years for us to get here. But I think ultimately, my biggest learning from an entrepreneurial standpoint is that if something isn't painful, it isn't changing you. And so we're often kind of taught to believe that pain is bad,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to avoid pain. But discomfort is really important. In fact, somebody told me at the beginning of this journey, you get comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable for a period of time, then that's going to lead to much more comfortable situations down the line.
Right.
But I think that we as humans often we're like, yeah, well, this doesn't feel comfortable to me, so I'm going to stop doing it. But we've managed to kind of keep on doing what we're doing, which has enabled us to grow the business and grow the brand, and hopefully change a little bit the way the world drinks.
All right. Milan Martin, Free Spirits, drinkfreespirits.com. Drink like you mean it. I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for the mojito.
Right.
But yeah, for the time being, I'm definitely going to, try the bourbon, the gin, and I'm sure my wife will like the margarita. So, we're trying to convert, leave the alcohol behind as much as possible. So this will be a good opportunity to do so now that we've had this great conversation. So, just continue to put out these flavors and, inspiring your team. And, thank you for your time today.
Thanks. It's always great to hang out, man.
All right, man. All right. So for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.